All right, good afternoon, everyone. I am here with Kate. She works with the city of Iowa City, and we're going to do a quick little interview with her, talking about her role in Iowa City, what her role is on the local level with the Iowa Park and Rec, and what her role is at the national level. So, Kate, tell us a little bit about your position with the city of Iowa City.
I am the Aquatics Program Supervisor for the City of Iowa City. So I oversee our 2 indoor pools and our outdoor seasonal pool here for the city.
Great. So what's your role with the Iowa Park and Rec Association right now with the aquatics?
So I recently became the chair of the Aquatics Association or the Aquatics, what did you say? The Aquatics Committee. Prior to that, I was a member of the committee. And then Brian Longren from Clive is the co-chair. So he is working with me in tandem, and then he'll eventually become the chair of the committee. And we took that over together in the fall of 2019.
Great. So what got you interested in being a part of having that role as a chairperson?
I love the meetings that we have for the Aquatics Committee. And I just said the fall of 2019, but it was actually the fall of 2020. It was this year. But this year, as we all know, 2020 has felt like 5 years, a decade. So we love the Aquatics Committee is really special because we get together and we do a lot of conversation about what's going on in the state of aquatics for the state. And we talk about bigger topics like what's happening with the Red Cross and what's going on in the national level for aquatics. And I love how conversational it is and how educational it's been as I've moved through different phases of my career in aquatics. So I really wanted to help continue on that tradition of those conversations and that roundtable style, but then also be able to work to get us some extra educational sessions so that we're all speaking from a similar vocabulary when we're talking about things in the aquatics realm. And so that was one of the things that worked out really well with the timing of COVID, is that we've brought our committee meetings, which happen once a month from the fall through the spring, and then we take the summer off generally from ongoing regular meetings. We've been able to bring those completely online out of necessity for COVID, but one of the benefits of that has been that we've been able to bring in some really fantastic guest speakers that are subject matter experts in whatever their realm of expertise is, from maintenance topics to in-service trainings, and we have some additional ones coming up in 2021 that we're really excited about. And that's been one of the passions of mine as I've worked with IPRA has been about continuing education. I've been able to be on the conference planning committee for 2 different committees or 2 different conferences, and I've really always loved to be in the fold when it comes to education and professional development. And so that's been a really great opportunity for me as I've taken over the chair for the Aquatics Committee.
Great. So you kind of touched on bringing in some of these speakers. So we know that you've got a little bit of a role at the national level that's gotten you those connections. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so I've been an active member of the Aquatics Network, that's why I get hung up on the words. Is every subcategory has its own unique verbiage for what it is that they're doing. But the National Parks and Rec Association has a Aquatics Network that serves similarly to how we see committees in IPRA. So they have a young professional network. They have a military branch. They have the Aquatics Network, which is a branch. So I've been involved with the Aquatics Network. Last year I was the program chair, which means that I was helping with getting a lot of the infrastructure kind of up and running. It was the first year that I was really a part of the committee. I jumped on a call to be a part of it as part of being a member of NRPA. And they needed somebody to help with the programming. And that was an area that I was pretty strong in here in Iowa City. And so I jumped in to try to help with some of that. And NRPA is really unique because the aquatics branch went away for a while and then it came back. And so right now it's really in the building stage where they're bringing it back in a way where it's able to serve members and have the different avenues of education and certification and professional development, much like we try to offer through the Aquatics Committee for IPRA. And so when a chance came up to be the co-chair, I jumped into doing that. So right now I'm helping the chair of the NRPA Aquatics Network with really creating a leadership team that is essentially setting the groundwork for what the NRP Aquatics Network will look like for continual years. And we've already done some really cool things, even though it just started in October. Actually, we just changed over positions and leadership in October, but we've added a diversity and equity position. We've gotten a whole calendar of calls up, and these are free calls, whether or not you're paying for membership for NRPA or not. You're able to jump into those calls. Just like with IPRA, we want the calls to be more open source. There are some benefits, obviously, that you get from being a member of both agencies, but the aquatics calls for both are free. And so that's been really exciting. It's allowed me to connect with people more over the country and even in other countries. There's a really active aquatics industry in Canada. The military branch of aquatics is super active and obviously all over the world as they're serving on US bases all over. There is a lot of involvement on both of the coasts and in the communities that we generally think of as more aquatic states like Texas and Florida and Arizona. So it's been really good to see what best practices are in bigger municipalities in particular, because that relates back to the work that we're doing here in Iowa City. And that's just been a really awesome opportunity to learn and then obviously share what information I've collected over the years as well.
Awesome. So you talked about bringing in that common language. So what are some of the other takeaways that you've gotten at that national level that you're trying to bring back to, whether it be IPRA or your own staff?
Yes. So the big themes that we like to think about is how accessible, obviously, things are for our community. The way that we've traditionally done aquatics is that we just run lessons and we have some kind of format of open swim. So bringing in real, meaningful ways to engage the public and get people who maybe haven't had access to the pool or to lessons or programming to the pool is a huge one. And the way that different municipalities and agencies, whether it's, city-run pools or YMCAs or even private businesses and water parks, the way that they're engaging people is completely different across the board, depending on the agency, the ideas that they have, their location. So that's been a really cool way to share ideas and get some different concepts and figure out how to tweak those to what we're doing in Iowa City, but then also make that be part of the ongoing conversation that we have in the state of Iowa. Some of the other ones were just bringing our level of risk management and surveillance with our lifguard teams to a higher standard. There are other agencies that exist aside from the Red Cross that are challenging some of the status quo that have traditionally been in play for surveillance and victim recognition and the kind of care that we're giving people. So having some common language around what that looks like has been really important for the state of Iowa, because we're such a vast state in terms of the size of our pools and also the type of operation that we have, whether that's a full-time team member that their sole job is aquatics, or there are many of us in municipalities where there's more than one of us that are full-time that work on aquatics and we have a maintenance team, versus communities of a few hundred or a few thousand people that also have a pool that services the community. And so we want to try to get everybody at a same level so that we're making pools and operations as safe as possible, and that we're able to see that development in our team members, because as you know, being in aquatics prior to your position with IPRA is that our staff is getting younger, and the seriousness sometimes of the job is can continue to get more and more lost on the newer generations if we're not being really focused on their roles as first responders. And so that's been a really big part as well that we've been trying to that I've been trying to kind of bring down to IPRA as well and get us all on the same page so that we're able to share ideas kind of at this next level instead of having to go over some of those basics. Now we have a shared understanding of what the basics are. And so we're able to really challenge ourselves and each other by doing more and more interesting things, whether that's engaging staff differently with audits or teaching them more fully about what a drowning actually looks like and how to respond. If that means talking about scholarships and how we get people into swim lessons and how we make sure that we know what the laws are for people that are using our locker room facilities and making sure that they're accessible to everybody and that our staff is trained on how to have difficult conversations when they overhear someone making a comment about who's in the locker room and so on. So that's been really rewarding because I think it serves many purposes. It allows me to connect IPRA with NRPA, allows me to connect all of those things back to the daily work that I do here for the city. But it's been a great experience to try to weave all of that together.
Super. So speaking of your staff, do you think your staff is really embracing this and saying, yeah, these are fresh ideas that, you're obviously working in a community that there's a college town. We're getting kids from all over, potentially the United States or even the world to come work. Are they embracing these changes and saying thank you? Maybe they didn't know much about the lifeguarding entity before. They're taking their experience from where they worked and it's like, this is refreshing. Someone cares. What's been your takeaway on that?
Yeah, I think that has been the takeaway is that I think people from a managerial perspective standpoint, people know when they have leaders that are inspired and when they have leaders that are interested in creating sustainable change, and they know. I mean, they read between the lines. I think all of us have been challenged in the time of COVID to be figuring out how to manage our own, our own psychological needs and our own struggles as we're going through like a really uncertain, the buzzword, right? Uncertain time, not just with COVID, but with the political climate, with climate change, with even just what's happening in the social justice sphere. So I think that our staff know, first of all, how invested we are and how committed we are to particularly diversity topics and also to their professional development. And they either see that model with us or they don't. And they either see that as a daily commitment of us walking through that commitment in every realm of what we do, or they see it as just a 30-minute session that we do once a year as part of our staff training. And we really have the ability to move the needle on how much of that we're bringing into the work that we do and how personally we're invested and professionally we're invested, and what kind of questions we're asking if we're being challenged by leadership in our municipality about pushing the envelope on some of these things. But the truth of the matter is, in 2020, we are at a time where not doing anything isn't an option. We're either doing something progressive and we're looking at ways to engage our young staff, or we're not. And if we're not, unfortunately, we're on the wrong side of history, because that is what the order is now. It's to make everybody feel like they're welcome, and then doing the work to actively go out into your community and physically bring in people and welcome them into your facilities. So our experience, we are lucky that we are in a college town. Our city is very, very, very vocal about the commitments that we have to being a leader when it comes to climate change and being a leader when it comes to diversity in the workplace and in our city. So I'm really grateful for that. But I'm also, in my experience, young people are ready for this work. I mean, they're interested. They want people to believe in them. They want to do work that they're passionate about. They want to be showing up at a place that's making a difference. And so our work is really to bridge together what we see as the value of what we do as full-time staff, and to bridge with what our temp staff that likely aren't going to go into Parks and Rec, honestly. But we can make it be meaningful for them while they're with us, and they're looking for that. I have not met many young people that are not ready to do that work. They're pretty energized to be passionate about what they do, despite what we hear, right? We hear things about millennials all the time. I'm actually a millennial myself, so I connect with that, of being of service and doing valuable work and being tied to a mission. And I think young people do too. And so I think if you commit to that, if you personally are committed to that, I think that's what you see from your team. As long as you keep moving the tide forward, I think it's definitely they're ready and they're excited to do that kind of work.
Great. So we know it takes additional time when you're involved at the local level, you're involved at the national level. Have you had that support from your supervisors and other staff with the city of Iowa City?
Yes. So the city really values us being involved in associations that are representatives for the professional nature of what we do. So we see that across the city, not just with recreation, not just with parks, but we have a someone who is in the position of I'm trying to think of the exact title, but along the lines of social equity director, I think might be her official title. And she was recently in a magazine for people that have that type of job in municipalities. We have people in the streets department that are part of public work publications and associations and professional development. So it's an important value for the city as a whole. But in our Parks and Recreation umbrella, it's important as well that we're supporting the association and we're supporting the national association that is doing important work for us. I mean, as far as legislature, as part of doing advocacy work, as far as providing grants and scholarships and awards. Like, those are really important things for us to be tuned into. And we also really value the type of education that we're able to get from both associations. So it's important for us to be involved, and and hopefully that's a two-way street, that our staff's able to bring value to whatever association we're a part of. So ultimately, you know, as we're working in the associations on different things, that we want it to be something that is mutually beneficial and brings back value to our workplace and then out into our community. So my contribution to IPRA and NRPA gives me ideas that I'm able to take back, and then I'm able to then make sure is a direct benefit for the people who live in Iowa City and the surrounding area. And but we really value that across the board. I personally value that. My supervisors value that. Our city manager understands the importance of that and values that. So it is a real, it's an important part of what we're doing, and we're really grateful for the work that the associations do, and that we're able to be involved in that. And we really love being partners in that way.
Super. So we appreciate your involvement with, you know, locally at the Iowa Park and Rec, and I appreciate what you're bringing down from that national level to the state. So where do you see yourself? What other future involvement do you see yourself being a part of at both the local and the state, or at the national level?
Yeah, well, you know me, Kelly, so I'm all about goals. I love having goals. Right now I'm really focused on the specific niche parts of aquatics, but I really love to think about diversity in a bigger conversation. So I would love to see some involvement with me and with both agencies on potentially developing some kind of committee of that kind. I think we're ready for it in a variety of ways for the state of Iowa, for our Iowa Parks and Rec Association. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of conversation that permeates each category, not just youth sports, not just special events, not just playgrounds, not just parks, not just aquatics, but that really is across the board. And as we have learned from COVID that we are essential and we're essential employees, I think that conversation is coming up more and more. So I'd love to be involved in that kind of capacity as my duties with the Aquatics Committee kind of weighing out. With NRPA, as I look to kind of what is happening with NRPA, I'd love to see, again, just more collaboration across that committee and across the state, and taking information and not just hearing it, but finding some tangible ways for people to adopt some of these practices. I have been learning about what AOAP does, which is the Association of Aquatic Professionals, and working with them on some different stuff with diversity concepts, and they're also really interested in having that be part of their mission, which is important right now. But other than that, the sky's the limit. I'm eager to see kind of what comes out of the next few years as we move through COVID, and see what impacts that has on our industry, and what ways we're able to rise above the challenges that we're facing right now, and what some of those long-term effects look like for the way that Parks and Rec is able to be a change agent when it comes to being leaders in climate change, being leaders in social justice, being leaders in being essential during the COVID times, and also being able to get back to doing things that people love to do, and play and recreate and spend time outside in a safe way. So who knows? We'll see what 2021 holds.
That's right. Kate, again, appreciate all the work you've done at the local level. Appreciate the work that and the time you put in at that national level, and bringing that all back to the state of Iowa. So just wanted to say thank you for your time here. And this is Kelly Johnson Rose signing off with the Iowa Park and Rec Association.